Welcome back. So let's start with basics. What are the fundamentals? What is an Agama? What is an Vastu Grantha? And then from there on, we can take off from there.
Sure. Now, Agamas are usually considered as a branch of Vedas itself. So, Nigama and Agama. And I think you'll be familiar with both the terms.
Yeah, but it'll be good to explain.
I'll surely do it. So, if you are familiar with music, Nigama Agama is one term which you very frequently come in many of the sahityas. So, Agamas are that canonical part which describes the entire temple activity and temple culture. So, there are usually I'll broadly explain the structure of an Agama and then go into the further divisions. Agamas, the term itself tells that it is something which is brought. So here we have various forms of the Parabrahma Tattva, various deities. Like the broad classifications are Shaiva, Vaishnava and Shakta. In that also we are further divided a lot of forms of each entity. Now, how to pray these entities? What are the forms for which siddhi you want to gain? All these things are explained in the Agamas. Usually, Agamas deal with the structural aspects as well as the ritualistic aspects of the temple. While vastugranthas limit themselves onto the structural part.
Okay.
They are like engineering texts.
Okay.
I'll explain about it later. But Agamas, one part of the Agamas is the structural, the building technologies discussed. While there are other parts which talk about the rituals and other things. Usually any Agama will have 4 parts.
Okay.
They are either addressed as Pada or Kanda.
Okay.
So both meaning the same. So they are the Charya Pada, Kriya Pada, and you have Yoga Pada and Gnana Pada.
Okay.
These are the 4 parts of an Agama. And if you have some little understanding of Sanskrit, the term themselves define what they are. So Charya Pada is the Charana, that is the activities, rituals that has to happen in a temple.
The actions.
That is what are the rituals beginning from Prana Pratishtapana.
Yeah.
So what form of deity, how many days you have to meditate upon it. See, what happens in the forums also, we have like this Bhoga and Yoga forums. For your material benefit, worldly gains, you do the Bhoga forums. And if you want to have a metaphysical, spiritual this thing into approach for your sadhana, then you will have the yoga forms. So that is why you will have Lakshmi Narasimha and Yoga Narasimha. You have Uma Maheshwara and you have Yogeshwara.
Okay.
So like that, in all the forums, you have this yoga and bhoga concept.
Okay.
So Charyapada talks about, so what is the forum you want to install there as the pratima, and what is the energy you want to invoke in it. So what are the rituals to be conducted? And another important thing is, it's not a one-time affair. After the procedure of prana pratishtapana, then once the prana is installed in that murti, it has to be sustained, maintained. So what are the rituals you have to do? Like you have Shatkala Puja, Trikala Puja, or the Nitya Karma Pujas, where every day you have to offer abhishekam with water with this particular sukta, so that this energy is transferred into the murti and all those things. So all these ritualistic parts. And again, there are some rituals where only the archaka takes part. There are some rituals where even the common people are involved. So this comes under the utsavas. You will have Kalyanotsava, Dolotsava, Rathotsava. And these were made so that the common people should have a contact and relationship with that supreme deity. So the concept of that is why the Utsamurti is also called as the Chalabera.
Okay.
the main deity which is in the Garbhagriha is called as the votive sculpture is the Moola Bera. So that is the energy center. But when it has to come to the people for their solace, then it comes the Chala Bera. So Chala or Chara, which is mobile. So like this, all the Utsavas are mentioned. So there may be some Agamas which have some more Utsavas included in it. There may be some Agamas with the earlier forms. So like that. So the Charyapada deals with the rituals of a temple from the installation, from the Prana Pratishtapana, from the consecration rituals. And how the other rituals have to be conducted, and once in how many years the Kumbhabhishekam has to happen, all those things. Then comes the Kriyapada. Kriyapada, as the term itself mentions, it is about the building the temple, the structure. And there it's that pada begins from the identification of a suitable land to build a temple. So what are the qualities of land, which land you should select, the quality of the mud and all those things. These are the very technical aspects it deals. Then you have to decide upon the directions, mark the directions. Then you will mark the Mana Sutra or the central axis. Then you will have the Vinyasa Sutra or the contour plan of the temple. Above which you will place all this Shadvargas of the temple like Adhisthana, Bhitti, Prastara and all. These are called the Shadvargas of the Vimana, the temple proper. Then which are the other associating mantapas? Where should the kitchen be built? Pakashala. So all these things are mentioned in the Kriyapada. So Kriyapada discusses the entire structural aspects and the technicalities behind the temple building. Then we have Yoga and Jnanapada. So Yoga Pada actually shows you the path of realizing that that Pradhana Devata of the Agama through the Yoga Marga. Through your Hatha Yoga, your this thing where your the Ashtangas are first brought out, you control, and the yogic path to understand that particular Devata.
That is that Yama, Niyama.
Yama, Niyama and all those things. These are all Pratyahara. These are all, I should say, these are the like the nursery lessons.
Steps to do.
Steps to do it. Beginning thing. Then you have, you should reach a level where you start identifying yourself with that deity. So that is where you have to rise. And that will happen only once you come out of your arrogance and ego. So all these things in the yoga methodology, it is explained. Then comes Gnanapada. Gnana is
knowledge.
Knowledge, again, as I said, knowledge sometimes sounds very limited. Gnana in our context is where you can differentiate between the non-existent and the permanent existing thing.
It's an experiential.
So it's experiential. So, so what are the qualities of a Gnani and how you have to go in that path? See, everybody will not be able to do yoga. They cannot choose yogic path for their Atma Gnana part of it to get them relieved from this, to gain moksha. So moksha, as I said, liberation would not be the proper translation, but that is used. So moksha is something again beyond that. So Gnana is another marga where you can attain moksha. And for that moksha, again you can gain Gnana through that particular Pradhana Devata who is, mentioned in the Agama. So like this, these are the 4 parts of an Agama where your materialistic needs are fulfilled, then your spiritual journey is guided. You can ultimately gain the final outcome of your sadhana. So these, as I said, there are Shaiva, Vaishnava and Shakta Agamas. Shaiva Agamas are 28 in number. Of them, the first 10, it is usually called as Kamikadi Vatulanta. The names are there like Chintyagama, Jitagama and all those things. If somebody who is interested, if they can browse, they can get all these names. So from Kamika to Vatula, there are 28 Agamas, of which the first 10 are considered as the Shaiva Agamas. These Agamas are actually considered to be exposed by the deities themselves.
Hmm.
Like Sadashiva himself explains these Agamas. Vishnu himself teaches the Vaishnava Agamas.
Okay.
So like that, it is how it is. That is why we call, as Vedas are Apaurusheya, Agamas are also given by the deity, the supreme gods by themselves.
Okay.
So when the Sadashiva explains to the Dashashivas, the first 10 Agamas were expounded, and that is the first 10 Shaiva Agamas. Then Ashtadasha Rudras were exposed to this other 18 Agamas.
The 11 Rudras.
Ashtadasha Rudras.
Ashtadasha,
Ekadasha Rudras are different.
11 Rudras.
So putting Dasha and Ashtadasha together, it becomes 28.
28. Yeah.
So these 28 Shaiva Agamas are there. Everything considers Sadashiva as the Parabrahma Swarupa, the ultimate reality, and it explains him with the qualities of Parabrahma, what we study in Vedanta. And from that qualities, he gains from that forum beyond qualities, from that Nirguna aspect, he gains qualities for the benefit of the people. So what are those qualities he gains? At which quality, by what name he is addressed? What is his forum? All these things are explained. So this is the 28 Shaiva Agamas. Then comes the Vaishnava Agamas. Vaishnava Agamas are two. It is Vaikhanasa and Pancharatra.
Okay.
So Vikhanasa Rishi is supposed to have emerged from Vishnu's knowledge, and he was guided with the Agama, which is called as Vaikhanasa Agama. He in turn teaches that to Atri, Bhrigu, Marichi and Kashyapa.
Okay.
These 4 rishis, he teaches the Vaikhanasa Agama. So they have something called as Kandas and Adhikaras composed by these sages, and they have compiled it into one work and transferred it to the future generations to follow. And Pancharatra Agamas, as the Agamas themselves mention, it is Vishnu is supposed to have expounded these 5 to Garuda, Vishwaksena, Indra, Ananta and Brahma.
Okay.
For these 5 people in a duration of 5 nights.
Oh, that's why
it is called as Pancharatra.
Okay.
There are some Puranic stories which tell that when Matsya was busy fighting with Hayagrivasura to revive the Vedas, there were a set of Brahmins who does the puja only without mantras and tantras, and that's how this Pancharatra emerged. Okay. That is one story which is based on some Puranas. But the Agamas themselves say that this is how it gains the name Pancharatra. So it was explained in a duration of 5 nights for these 5 seekers, and they in turn transferred to the followers of that path. And these again, they have further divisions like Samhitas and other literature works which explain the Upasana of Vishnu in his various forms, and the phalas, as we tell, what are the fruits you are going to derive out of that Upasana. Then Shakta Agamas. Shakta Agama is like an ocean by itself. Yeah. And unfortunately, again, today Tantra is the most misinterpreted and most misunderstood
concept itself.
Concept.
Yeah.
So Tantra is something which is very, very beyond all these things. Yeah. And there are 77 major Shaktagamas. All the Shaktagamas are called as Tantras.
Okay.
And they like Kularnava Tantra, Rudrayamala Tantra, Gauri Agama Tantra, all these things are there. And they consider Shakti as the Parabrahma, concept of Parabrahma. Even if you are familiar with Lalita Sahasranama, you can know how Devi is represented as the Parabrahma Tattva and all those things. So these Shakta Tantras put out a way where you realize, and I personally feel that is one of the challenging and hardest ways of approaching, where you have to come out of yourself completely. So that is a very difficult path, and that is why Shakta Tantra is usually more of a Gupta Vidya, because you cannot just not everybody and anybody can understand it or follow it. So you need to have a lot of experience to enter into it. So that's why these are the Shakta Agamas. So and that's why there is less information about temples in Shakta Agamas, because their Atma Sadhana takes a major part.
Yeah.
And
there
wherever you
many-
are, whenever whichever place you are, you can do that by yourself.
Right.
There is I don't mean to say they denied the existence of a temple, but it is comparative. When you compare it to Shaiva and Vaishnava, it is lesser.
Lesser.
In thing.
And because also in tantric practices there are so many practices which are so personal and
That is as I said, it is more of an Atma Vidya.
right, and there are so many occult practices also there,
Yes, there are
right,
there.
which are kept gupta,
Yes.
secretive, and these days these are just coming out
Ah.
and people are just taking it to some
Nowadays
other,
it has become like some science fiction stories.
Yeah.
Anything and everything they churn out of it,
and make
they
call
add-
it tantra. Yeah.
and the real essence of tantra is not being properly transferred. Even in on YouTube, I observe some. I don't know. There are some discussions or something on
Tantra.
tantras, especially they the titles are mostly to attract the viewers.
Yeah.
Would be like as if it is the everything about tantra or some hidden facts about
Tantra.
all those things are not possible. You have to be a practitioner,
Yeah.
and then only you will really understand what is. And another sincere opinion of mine is, not everybody need not know what really a tantra is.
Correct.
That's also not necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are about the Agamas. Now,
Right.
coming to the Vāstu Śāstra granthas, Vāstu Śāstra granthas are like engineering books. They purely deal with the technical aspects of temple building, and it's not restricted to temple building. There are Vāstu Śāstra granthas which talk about town planning, village planning, and all those things. Nagara Nirmana, Grama Nirmana, and all those things. Here in these texts, they mention about rituals wherever it is necessary. In point, for example, after the selection of land, so these are the pujas, balis, and homas you have to conduct. Like that, they will mention, but it's not an elaborated this thing as we find in the Charyapada. So they restrict themselves more into the engineering aspects, selection of material, selection of stone. So what is a pumshila, which has the stone to be chosen for a mula bera, which is a stone for general construction, which are the trees you should not opt for building. All these details are furnished in a Vāstu Śāstra grantha.
Okay.
It is purely, as I said, it is a guidebook into this thing.
Yeah.
And there are many Vāstu Śāstra granthas. As far as the modern researchers say, Kashyapa Jnana Kanda is the earliest Vāstu Śāstra grantha we find. We have, in existence. There might have been some granthas even earlier dated. But the popular texts like Mayamata, Manasara and all are mentioned frequently. But in my study, what I found out was, as far as the Dravida architecture is concerned, that is the south of India, the temples are mainly can be understood with the help of Mayamata. Okay. So Mayamata and Kashyapa Shastra are those Vāstu Śāstra granthas which are very clear in their explanation and definitions. While there are texts like Manashastras and other Manashastras, they are a bit confusing, sometimes misleading, sometimes there may be later interpolations and all those things are found. So these are about the Vāstu Śāstra granthas. Okay. There are some granthas like Manushya Chandrika and Narada Samhita which deal only with house building and town planning. They don't go to temple part at all.
Okay.
So in all these existed parallelly. In our culture.
Yeah. So there was temple construction and also the individual houses and palaces constructions.
Everything is mentioned. So even in Vāstu Śāstra granthas, they meant palace construction also. What should be the Chakravarti's palace, the Mahishis, that is the Pattab Mahishi's palace, Yuvaraja's palace, then other princes, other queens. So like that, all those things, it's mentioned. You find it in that.
So Vastu in general as a concept, let's again maybe briefly talk about what is Vastu and why is it important?
The term Vastu is, usually it comes out of Vastu. Okay. So Vastu is that thing which is suitable for a person's residence. So Vasa Yogya, one which should be suitable for the a person's residence or for the residence of a deity. So this is what is Vastu basically. Vastu means just a place which is suitable for a proper living. This is Vastu. Now Vastu, what happens? How does the Vastu Granthas develop? That is one thing which I have to observe. Because if you are familiar with the Indian branches of knowledge, you will understand that all the knowledges usually, even maybe Griha Sutras or whatever, they are based on three concepts. That is Desha, Kala and Paristhiti. The Paristhiti can be transferred as Vatavarana.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So one is the Desha. Desha means not the nation or country, not like that.
The geography.
Geography, where you are living or where you have to build. So that is Desha. Kala is the period. And then you have Paristhiti, that is the environment.
Yeah.
Now, as I was mentioning the names of the texts, there is this Mayamata, if we take as an example. Mayamata deals with the temple building. If you observe the description of the temple building given in Mayamata, it suits the temples. It can be our temples, Chola temples, Ganga temples, can be analyzed and studies based on Mayamata. Very clearly.
Okay.
Fingertip, you can point and say this is this. And this is what Mayamata mentions. So that clear it is. So we can understand that it is a text which guides temple building in the regions which are usually called as the Bailsime part.
Okay.
The plateau part, the plain land part.
Plain land, okay.
Where you find, stone is abundant, granite, hard granite abundant, you find it. With that, you build temples like that. While you have another text which is called as Tantra Samuchaya. It is of a later date, whatever it may be. This Tantra Samuchaya is a grantha, but Vastu Grantha, which is suitable for the temples built in the coastal regions.
Okay.
Coastal and Malnad regions.
Okay.
So that is why what happens, you don't have a hard and fast rule when you are reading Shaiva Shastra Granthas. Sometimes it may be contradictory. Now, Tantra Samuchaya may say that the Garbhagriha Dvaramana should not cross 3 feet. It may mention that. While you take Mayamata, the Dvaramanam is based on, the danda of the Moola Bera and all those things. The measurements, totally different.
Yeah.
It is not they're contradicting. Because the geography of the temples built based on Mayamata is totally different from the coastal and the Western Ghat geography.
Because of the sea winds and
sea winds, and again resources. For example, you cannot transport huge stone beams and stone slabs in the hilly region. But wood is abundantly available there. We are talking about Brihadishvara. Or even take a smaller temple for that matter. If in a temple of a smaller dimension, you can see that the dwara of the Garbhagriha would be some 6 to 8 feet tall. Now you will have to have one single stone slab, because masonry slabs cannot be used for pillars and door jambs.
Yeah.
Wall is different, but these are the load bearers and the main
they have to have strength. Yeah.
So in Vijayanagara, if you go, you'll be astonished seeing the pillars of the Mahamantapa of Vijayavitla temple and others. One pillar would be, like some 8 to 10 feet tall. The stone which out of they have sigilled, the original stone must have been at least 10 to 12 feet tall, a width of 6 feet, a girth of 6 feet, like that.
Yeah.
Imagine how they would have shifted it, brought it, sizzled it. It's something really unimaginable in the modern days, in the contemporary days. You cannot do it.
Yeah.
They have done it. They have achieved it. And it still stands there. That is the testimony. You need no proof for this.
No proof of this.
Right?
Yeah.
They are standing. But at the same time, when you go to temples in, like Gokarna or some other place, there you don't find such massive pillars.
No.
Two, it is not necessary. Second, the resource you cannot transport.
Yeah.
It is a matter of common sense, and our rishis had common sense. That is why they became rishis.
Right. Yeah.
They could think, this suits this suits. They were not carried away by fear or some other dogma.
Yeah.
So they were very clear.
Correct.
So here a temple, okay, in Malnad, even if today if you go, of course today the modern transport has improved that may support certain things. But otherwise, for rare example like Vidyashankara temple in Sringeri or something, one or two temples, you don't find a complete stone structure.
Yeah.
In Kerala, if you go, it is more of Daruja or Mrinmaya. Darumaya means wooden structures.
Yeah.
Mrinmaya means out of brick and mortar.
Correct.
If you observe the foundation, the adhisthana, the plinth will be of stone. The door jambs will be of stone. They are the load bearers. There may be a row of pillars, one row or two rows, major pillars, which may be of stone. But you will have only mainly wooden pillars.
Yeah. And in Kerala temple, since you mentioned that, it's not like how we find in other South Indian temples where you have this huge gopuras.
Gopura, yeah. And they are all rain prone regions, Malnad regions.
Yeah.
So they will have a lupakara shikara.
Which is protective.
Lupakara means which is like it's like a canopy, where the water has to flow out from all the four sides.
Yeah.
You cannot say no, I will build a flat roofed temple for Shiva somewhere in a very. That's why if you observe, temples of Kerala and Malnad region resemble the temples in Nepal. If you go to Nepal and visit some temples, they are so close.
Yeah. Because of that roof.
Because of the roof, the material available. There also they use wood in abundance. A lot of wood is used.
Yeah.
It is there available.
Yeah.
So all these things that is how the Vāstu Śāstra granthas were composed.
Because it is based on the geography.
So that is the Desha. And then comes Kala. Kala means there are two aspects. One is time span and the improved technology of that particular time.
What is available.
So that is that should suit it.
Correct.
See, if you observe the existing temples, for example, if you see Badami Chalukyan temples, they are earliest stone edifices. It was like an experimented stone they started using. That was the initial days. So they had to be very careful. You can observe that they have provided more support. The pillars are very hefty. The rafters are, huge. All those things have taken a lot of precaution.
Yeah.
But when you come down to period like Hoysalas or something, there probably the technology improved. They started using softer medium. So the temples, though proportionately they became smaller, they became very elegant, very beautiful.
Yeah.
So all these aspects. So this is Kala. Why did not they blindly follow Badami Chalukyas?
Yeah. Yeah, and Badami Chalukyas, anyways, they started in the caves.
Yeah. So all these things. So like this, the Desha and Kala. Then comes the environment, Paristhiti. Now, if you have to build something, the utility part is also one thing which you have to observe. Because temple was just not a religious is also a very narrow word, but however, religious center. It's not like just only for the puja purpose. It was a multi-faceted activity center. Yeah. So, and again, what happens, you are building a temple, the environment, first there should be devotees, you should get a lot of gathering. It should serve the purpose. So, and there are various other things also. And the temple tradition also protected the environment surrounding the temple.
Yeah.
Like we have sthalavrakshas, or we have something like certain vrikshas should not be chopped. All this, you have to nurture some trees, plants. So flora and fauna, everything of that environment had to be preserved. So this is how the Vāstu Śāstra granthas were, literally planned and composed. Okay. Desha, Kala and Paristhiti. That is why they are sustainable to that particular environment.
So it is also a very scalable concept.
Scalable, and to put it in the modern terminology, it is scientific. The present generation gets carried away by this term. Everything has to be scientific. So that's how they become very
attractive
to the scientific.
Yesterday also we were speaking in another conversation that if you add science to anything,
it becomes
acceptable.
I don't know why everything has to be scientific.
Right.
It's very
okay, sir. So this was actually very fascinating to know that it's just about the geography, the time, and the environment that you are in, that these structures were actually, and it's a very, very scientific and scalable concept. And we'll further go into this further, then what the modern day people understand in terms of Vastu and how they build their houses and all those things, that we will cover it in the next episode. So thank you for so much for this.
Thank you. Namaste.